Good evening. My name is Elena, and today I will read you a bedtime story. Pavel Bazhov, the Mistress of the Copper Mountain. I wish you a pleasant listening experience and sweet, deep dreams. Once 2 of our factory workers went to check on the grass, and their meadows were far away, beyond the north somewhere. It was a festive day. And it was hot and passionate, a steam, clean. And both were working in the mountains, on the Gumeshki, that is. They were extracting malachite. Lazarevka too. But when the Kinglet and Vitok got in, and everything else that would fit. There was one young guy, not married, but his eyes were already starting to have a green tint. The other one was older, completely worn out, with green in his eyes, and his cheeks looked like they were covered in green, and he was coughing all the time. In the forest, it's nice. The birds are singing, they are happy. From the earth ascension spirit light. They heard it and felt drowsy. They reached the Krasnogorsk mine. They were mining iron ore there at that time. So they lay down. Our guys went to the grass under the rowan tree. Yeah, and they fell asleep right away. But suddenly, the young guy, just as someone nudged him in the side, woke up. He looks, and in front of him, on a pile of ore by a big rock, there's a woman sitting. Her back was to the guy, but you could see the girl by her braid. Her hair was a gray-black, and it's not like our girl's hair that hangs loose. And it was sticking to her back. At the end of the ribbon, they're either red or green. They shine through thinly, and they tinkle like that, like leaf copper. The girl is looking at the guy's braid, while he keeps noticing other things. The girl is of small stature, well-proportioned, and she won't sit still in one place. It's such a lively wheel. She leans forward, as if looking for something under her feet. Then she leans back again. She bends to one side, then to the other. She jumps to her feet, waves her arms, then leans down again. In a word, she's lively. You can hear something splashing, but what it is unknown, and with whom he says it's not visible. Only with the bag, that's all. She looks happy. The guy was about to say a word. Suddenly it felt like someone hit him on the back of the head. Mother, it's you, but this is the mistress herself. Her outfit. How did I not notice it right away? She averted her eyes with that braid of hers. And the outfit is indeed like that. You won't find another like it in the world. A dress made of silk like malachite. There is such a variety. It's a stone, but it looks like silk. You could almost stroke it with your hand. Here the guy thinks, trouble. I just need to get my legs moving before she notices. He heard from the old folks that this mistress, the one with the malachite, loves to play tricks on people. Just as he thought that, she turned around. She looks at the young man cheerfully, showing her teeth and joking. What's the matter, Stepan Petrovich? Are you staring at the girl's beauty for free? They charge for a glance, you know. Come a little closer, let's talk for a bit. The guy got scared. Of course, he doesn't show it on the outside. He holds on tight. Even though she's a mystery, she's still a girl. Well, the guy feels embarrassed in front of the girl, you know? He says he doesn't have time to talk. They overslept, and then they went to look at the grass. She chuckles and then she says, "You'll have to play along." "Go," I said, "there's something to do." But the guy sees there's nothing he can do. He went to her, and she waves her hand, telling him to go around the bush from the other side. He went around and saw, there are countless little lizards here, and they all look different. Some, for example, are green, others are blue. Which fall into the blue? Some look like clay or sand with golden specks. Some shine like glass or mica, while others look like faded grass, and some are decorated with patterns. The girl is laughing. "Don't part," he says. "My army, Stepanushka Petrovich. Look how big and heavy you are, but mine are small." And she clapped her hands, and the little lizards scattered, clearing the way. So the guy came closer, stopped, and she clapped her hands again, laughing all the while. "Now you have nowhere to step, and if you crush my servant, it'll be a disaster." He looked down, and there was just a patch of dirt. All the little lizards gathered in one spot. It became half speckled underfoot. Stepanushka looks. Goodness, this is ore copper, of all sorts and well polished. And there's mica here, along with some fakes and glitter, all kinds that resemble malachite. Well, now Stepanushka has recognized me. The malachite seller asks, and she's laughing, just bursting with laughter. Then, after a little while, she says, "Don't be scared, Skinny. I won't do anything to you." The guy felt hurt that the girl was mocking him and using such words too. He got really angry, even shouted, "Who should I be afraid of? What if I'm in trouble?" "Well, that's fine," the malachite seller replies. "That's exactly what I need. Who is not afraid of anything. Tomorrow, when you go down the mountain, your factory clerk will be here. You tell him, but make sure you don't forget the words. The landlady ordered you a stinky goat from the Copper Mountain, so that you get out of the Krasnogorsk mine. If you're going to break my iron helmet again, so I'll send all the copper down to you in the bags. That it can't be mined at all." She said that and squinted. "Did you understand, Stepanushka?" "You say you're in trouble? Aren't you afraid of anyone? So tell the clerk what I told you. And now go to the one who has nothing to do with you. Don't say that. He's a broken man. What should we worry him about? Yes, to get involved in this matter." And so she told Lazarevka to help him a little. And again she clapped her hands, and all the lizards scattered. She jumped to her feet, grabbing onto a rock with her hand. She jumped up, and also, like a lizard, ran across the stone. Instead of arms, legs, her paws turned green. The tail stood up. There's a black stripe running halfway down the back, and the head is human. She ran up to the top, looked back, and said, "Don't forget, Stepanushka, as I told you. I told you, you stinky goat, to get out of Krasnogorka. If you do it my way, I'll marry you." The guy even spat in the heat of the moment. "Ugh, you filthy thing, as if I would marry a lizard." And she sees him spitting and bursts out laughing. "All right," he shouts, "we'll talk later. Maybe you'll change your mind." And right over the hill, only the green tail flashed by. The guy is left alone. At the mine, it's quiet. You can only hear as another one snores behind a pile of ore. He woke him up. We went to check on our hayfields. We looked at the grass. By evening they returned home. And Stepan is thinking about what he should do. To say such words to the overseer is no small matter. And he was really stuffy too. They say there was some kind of rot inside him. Not saying anything is also scary. She's the mistress? What kind of ore can you throw into a trick? Then do your homework? And worse, it's embarrassing to show yourself as a braggart in front of the girl. He thought, and finally gathered his courage. Come what may, I'll do as she instructed. The next morning, as people gathered around the trigger drum, the overseer Zavodskoy approached. Everyone, of course, took off their hats and fell silent, and Stepan approached and said, I saw the Mistress of the Copper Mountain in the evening, and she ordered me to tell you. She tells you, stuffy goat, to get out of Krasnogorka. If you mess up this iron cap for her, she'll send all the copper down into the gullies, and no one will be able to get it. Even the overseer's mustache trembled. What are you doing? Drunk. Have you lost your mind? What mistress? Who are you saying such words to? Yes, I'll bury you in sorrow. It's your will, says Stepan. But that's how I've been ordered. Flay him, the overseer shouts. Yeah, send him down the mountain and chain him in the mines. And to make sure he doesn't die, give him dog oatmeal and lessons, ask without leniency, and if he slips up, whip him mercilessly. Well, of course they whipped the guy and sent him up the mountain. The overseer of the ore is also a dog, not the least of them. He led him to a fight that couldn't have been worse. And it's wet here, and there's no good ore. It should have been thrown away a long time ago. Here, they chained Stepan to a long chain so that he could work. It was a well-known time. Serfdom. They mocked the man in every way. The overseer also says, cool down a bit here, and your lesson will be pure malachite, that much? And he appointed, not at all appropriate. There's nothing to be done. As soon as the overseer stepped away, Stepan started waving at Yulka. But the guy was still pretty nimble. He looks, well, the malachites are just pouring down. Exactly, someone is tossing him up with their hands. And the water, it went somewhere from the pit. It got dry. He's thinking, this is nice. It seems the mistress remembered me. Just as he thought, suddenly it shone, and he looks, and the mistress is right in front of him. Well done, says Stepan Petrovich. You can attribute it to honor. He wasn't scared of the stuffy goat. He said it well. Let's go, it seems, to look at my dowry. I'm also not one to back down from my word. And she herself frowned. It's just not good for her. She clapped her hands, the lizards rushed in, they took the chain off Stepan, and the mistress gave them their orders. Break the lesson in half here. And so that the malachite was of the selected sort, of the silk variety. Then Stepan says, well, groom, let's go look at my dowry. And so they went. She's in front, and Stepan is behind her. Where is she going? Everything is open to her, like rooms, big ones that have become underground. And their walls are different. Some are all green, some are yellow, with golden speckles, on which there are again flowers, copper ones. There are blue ones too, the Lazarus ones. In a word, it's adorned, which is an understatement. And the dress on her changes, you know. Sometimes it shines like glass, then suddenly it fades, and then it sparkles with a diamond dust. Or it turns into a bright copper, then again it shimmers with green silk. They are walking, and she stops. Then she says, "For many miles there are yellow ones. Yeah, the grey ones with a speck will do. What's there to see? And here we are right under the red hill. Here, after Gumashek, is the most precious place for me." And Stepan sees a huge room, and in it there are beds, tables, little stools. Everything is made of royal copper. The walls are made of malachite with diamonds, and the ceiling is dark red under the blackness. And on it are copper flowers. "Let's sit here and talk," she says. They sat on those little stools, and the malachite woman asks, "Have you seen my dowry?" "I've seen it," says Stepan. "So what about marriage now?" But Stepan doesn't know how to respond. You know, he had a bride, a nice girl, just an orphan. Well, of course, compared to the malachite woman, how could she match her beauty? Just an ordinary person. Stepan hesitated for a bit, then said, "Your dowry is fit for kings, but I'm just a working man, an ordinary guy." "You, my dear friend, don't be so evasive. Just say it straight. Are you going to marry me or not?" But she frowned completely. "Well," Stepan answered directly, "I can't, because someone else has promised." He said that and thought to himself, but now he's angry. And she seemed to be happy. "Good job," says Stepanushka. "I praised you for the manager, and for this, I'll praise you twice. You didn't get blinded by my riches. He didn't trade his Nastya for a stone girl. And the guy, his fiancée, was probably named Nastya. Here," he says, "here's a little gift for your fiancée." And he hands over a large malachite box. And there, you know, any female device, earrings, rings, and other things that not every rich bride has. "How am I going to get up there with this stuff?" the guy asks. "Don't worry about that. Everything will be arranged, and I'll rescue you from the manager, and you'll live comfortably with your young wife. But here's my tale for you. Don't you dare remember me later. This will be your third trial. And now let's eat a little." She clapped her hands again. The lizards rushed in. The table is full, they set it up. She fed him with good cabbage soup, fish pie, lamb, porridge, and other things that are customary in Russian tradition. Then she says, "Well, goodbye, Stepan Petrovitch, just don't remember me." But she herself was in tears. She offered her hand, and tears were dripping down, freezing into little beads on her hand. A full handful. "Here, take this to get by. People pay big money for these little stones. You'll be rich?" And she hands them to him. The stones are cold, but her hand, you know, is hot, just like it's alive, and it trembles a little. Stepan took the stones, bowed low, and asked, "Where should I go?" And he himself became gloomy too. She pointed with her finger, and in front of him a passage opened up like a mine shaft. And it's bright in there like during the day. Stepan walked along this adit, again saw all sorts of land riches, looked at them, and came right to his face. He arrived, the adit closed, and everything became the same as before. A little lizard ran up, attached a chain to his leg, and suddenly the box with the gifts became small. Stepan hid it in his bosom. Soon Supervisor Rudnikny came. He laughed, getting along, but he sees that Stepan has a lot going on above the lesson, and the malachite is sorted out. What does he think about the thing? Where did this come from? He went into the mine, looked around, and said, "For ages the mines you can break as much as you want." And Stepan took him to another mine, and he put his nephew in charge. The next day, Stepan started working, and the malachite just kept flying out. And also a little finch with Vitka. They started to hit it. But as for that nephew, I tell you, there's nothing good there. It's all just empty rock, and it's a scam. Then the supervisor swept the matter away. He ran to the foreman. Just like that. "No way," says Stepan. "He sold his soul to the dark forces." The foreman says this. It's his business whom he sold his soul to. And we need to take advantage of this for ourselves. Promise him that we'll set him free as long as he finds a malachite boulder in the mine. The foreman ordered Stepan to be released and gave the order to stop all work at Krasnogorka. Who knows him, he says. Maybe that fool was talking nonsense then. And the ore there was mixed with copper. The warden told Stepan what was required of him, and he replied, "Who would refuse freedom? I'll try, but will I find it? That's just how my luck goes, it'll come around." Soon Stepan found them a boulder, like this one. They dragged it up, proud of it, saying, "Look where we are, look at this." But Stepan wasn't given his freedom. And they wrote "Master" on the boulder. He came all the way from the outskirts to St. Petersburg. He found out how it happened, and Stepan called him to his place. Here's what he says. "I give you my noble word to set you free if you can find me malachite stones that can be carved into pillars at least 5 fathoms long." Stepan answers, "I have already been scammed once. I am a scientist now. First, write me my freedom, then I'll try, and whatever happens, we'll see." The master, of course, shouted, stomped his feet, but Stepan just stood his ground. "I almost forgot. Write a letter of freedom for my fiancée too." What kind of order is this, that I get to be free while my wife is in prison? The master sees that the guy is no pushover, so he wrote him such a paper. "Here," he says, "just make sure to try your best." But Stepan just stood his ground. That's just how luck goes, it'll work out. Of course, Stepan found it. What does it matter to him, since he knows all the insides of the mountains, and even the mistress herself was helping him? They carved the pillars. They kneaded out of that malachite. They dragged it up. The master sent them as a gift to the main church in St. Petersburg. And that boulder that Stepan first found is still in our town, they say. How they protect it as a rarity? Since then, Stepan has been set free, but all the wealth in the granaries has completely vanished. A lot of Lazarevka is coming, but mostly it's a deception. About the little king, there's been no sight or sound of him. And the malachite went away. The water started to take over. So since then the granaries started to decline, and then they were completely flooded. They said that this landlady was upset about the posts that were put up in the church, and that it was of no use to her at all. Stepan also didn't find happiness in life. He got married, started a family, built a home, everything just right. He should have lived a calm life and enjoyed it. But he became gloomy and his health weakened, and he just faded away before our eyes. The sick man decided to get a shotgun and took up hunting. And that's all the hearsay. He goes to the Krasnogorsk mine. But he doesn't bring any game home. He left one autumn, and that was the end of it. He's gone, he's just gone. Where did he go? They knocked him down, of course, so let's go look for him. And you know what? They say he's lying dead by the high stone at the mine. He smiles evenly and he has a gun. It's lying right there on the side. Not a single shot has been fired from it. The first people who rushed over said they saw a green lizard near the deceased. Yeah, a big one, the kind we've never seen around here before. It sits there, as if over the deceased, with its head raised, and tears are just dripping down. As the people got closer, it jumped onto a rock, and that was the last they saw of it. And when they brought the deceased home, they started to wash him, and they noticed that one of his hands was tightly clenched, and you can barely see the little green seeds in it. A handful. Then a knowledgeable person happened to be there, looked at the seeds from the side and said, "Yes, this is a copper emerald. A rare stone, expensive. You've inherited a whole fortune, Anastasia. Where did he get those little stones from?" Anastasia, the woman, he explains that the deceased never mentioned anything like that. He never mentioned any such little stones. He gave her this box when he was still her fiancé. A big malachite box. There's a lot of goodness in her, but I've never seen such little stones before. They started to take those little stones out of Stepan's dead hand, and they just crumbled to dust. They never found out where Stepan got them from at that time. They were digging later at Krasnogorka, but the ore, brown with copper sand. Then someone found out, was it from Stepan? The tears of the Mistress of the Copper Mountain were. He didn't sell them, you know. He kept them secret from everyone. With them he also accepted death. So this is what the Mistress of the Copper Mountain is like. The poor will meet sorrow with her, and the good will find joy.